Hi everyone. We're going to go over the workbook pages now, and I'm going to go over 1 and 2 on yesterday's workbook page, number 48. And the first question is to list the top speeds of the athletes in decreasing order. So decreasing, that would mean that it's going down. So we want to list these speeds starting with the greatest and going down to the least. So if I'm looking for the greatest, I noticed that they all have 82, or these three have 82, but then this one has 83 as the whole number, and then we've got another one with 82. So if I'm starting with the greatest one, I know 83 is going to be greater than any of them that have a 2 in the ones place, since we've got a 3 in the ones place. Because remember, we start at the left and we look for the first difference. So the ones place is our first difference, and that's going to make this one the greatest. So 83 and 700ths would come first. And then we're going to look at, now all of them have a 2. So I'm going to mark this one out, showing that we've used it. All of them have 2 ones, so I'm going to look at the tenths place. So I have a 1/10, a 7/10, 8/10, and then another 8/10. So again, I'm looking for the greatest one since we're going in decreasing order. And so I'm going to have to go over to the hundredths place since both of these have an 8. And those are the greatest out of the ones that remain. So this one has 100, this one has 0 hundredths. So 100th is going to be more. So that gives me 82 and 100th. And then the next one would be the 82 and 80 hundredths. And then now I'm going to look at the last 2 numbers. So I'll mark these out. So though again, they both have 82 for the whole number, so our first difference is the tenths place. So 7/10 is more than 1/10. So 82 and 75 hundredths is going to be next. And then I've got 82 and 13 hundredths is last. So I've got these speeds in miles per hour from greatest to least because it was decreasing order. Now, number 2 asks, do any of the athletes have the same top speed rounded to the nearest tenth of a mile per hour? What about rounded to the nearest mile per hour? So if I'm rounding these to the nearest tenths, remember I'm looking at the tenths place. And so for this first one, since we've got 7 hundredths, it is going to go up. It's going to be closer to 1/10 than it would be staying at 0 tenths. So 83 and 1/10. Here, it's not enough to make it go up, so it's going to stay at 82. And then here I've got an 8 in the tenths place. The number beside it is not 5 or more, so it's going to stay in 8. So it would be 82 and 8 hundredths. And then here I've got a 7 in the tenths place. The number beside it is 5 or more, so it's going to go up to an 8. So 82 and 8/10. So here I do see that 2 of them do have the same amount whenever we round to the tenths place. And then on this last one, we've got a 1 in the tenths place, and the number beside it's not 5 or more, so it's going to stay a 1. So 82 and 1/10. So there were 2 that stay the same. At first I was thinking 3, but this one had 83 and this one was 82. So these were the only 2 that were the same. Now if we round to the nearest, the nearest mile per hour, that's like rounding to the nearest whole number or ones place. So we're looking at the ones place for each of these. And this one's going to round to 83 because we looked at the 3 and it's not enough to make it go up. The same here, we've got a 0 in the tenths place, so it's going to stay at 82. This one would, because we've got a 2 and the number beside it's 5 or more, it would go up to 83. And then this one here is also going to go up to 83. And then our last one's going to stay at 82. So we have several that are the same. They're either going to be 83 or 82. So, whenever you're doing a race, we want to get, more precise so that we can see who actually won the race. Because some of these, it would look like they tied. All right, so then on page 49, it just gives you a review of everything that we've done. So make sure you looked over this page since this was from yesterday. And if you haven't, go back and look at page 49. These are all the different things that you should be able to do with the decimal. You should be able to show it on a diagram, write it as a fraction, write it in word form, and then write it in expanded form, and then locate it on a number line. So our new thing today is working on adding decimals. And so your workbook pages for today are 60 through 62. And so you're going to just add these decimals, and that's what, this picture is asking, how many do you see? So remember, these are in groups of 10, so that would be 10, 20, 30. And so that would be 30 hundredths, or we could say it as 3 tenths, added to the 2 tenths. And so we have a total of 5 tenths here, or 50 hundredths would be the same amount. So that's all you have to do on these pages. You can look at each one individually and then put them together. So here, I can see that there's one missing, but if I take the one that's missing, that's going to be 1 whole, and then I would just have 1 tenth left over. So this is going to be 1 1/10, because we had 2 tenths with the first one and 9 tenths with the second one. And so when we add these together, we get 11 tenths, but we know 11 tenths would be the same thing as 1 whole, because 10 tenths makes 1, and then we have the 1 tenth left over. All right, and then looking at this diagram, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 missing. So I can take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. So that's going to give me 1 whole. And then I have 2 hundredths left over. I also could have thought of this as being 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95. So 95 hundredths plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hundredths. And when I put that together, I end up with the same thing, 102, which is going to be the same as 1 2 hundredths, or 102 hundredths. All right, so I'm going to let you do the last one on this page, and then on page 62, you're going to find the sum. Remember what we said in the previous video, that you add like place values. So make sure you line up the place values when you're adding this. And then be sure to also answer this question about what questions do you still have about adding decimals. All right, let me know if you have any questions after you finish these pages.